The Miami Dolphins season is officially over, and we have a lot of question marks. Who will be the QB? Who will be the head coach? And who will be the next GM for your Miami Dolphins? We'll see how it goes. All right, so we have a lot of things here to unpack. First of all, the Miami Dolphins season does end in a way that all of us, some expected, some didn't expect, but it was honestly, it was tough to witness. And I know Dolphin fans are with me when I say this every single time. It's just the truth. Like every single season is tough. It is tough to be a Miami Dolphins fans, but we do have some news that fans could get excited about, and that's this GM search that's going on. But most importantly, breaking news coming out today that John Harbaugh has been dismissed from his duties with the Baltimore Ravens, making him a potential hot commodity out there to be another head coach for a franchise. So you look at the Miami Dolphins instantly. I'm getting excited about this. However, Mike McDaniel still has yet to be fired from the Dolphins. So the question mark remains there. Will Mike McDaniel be the head coach going forward? I don't think he should. I mean, I have said it on this platform so many times for so many different reasons. If the Dolphins can find a way to net John Harbaugh, that can be the start of what all Dolphin fans have been asking for, and me, myself included, which is an absolute culture change. Some talk about a guy who has won Super Bowls, who has been successful, who has gone to the playoffs, who has won playoff games, who leads by example in John Harbaugh. Obviously, it didn't end well there in Baltimore this season, but we're talking about a guy with an extensive resume, something that the Dolphins have not been able to put on the forefront of things. I think this would be an absolute smash hire. If I'm Stephen Ross, I'm letting go of Mike McDaniel and absolutely going all in on John Harbaugh. There's a reason why things have been the same way it's been. All right. It starts from up top, right? I don't blame Ross, but you got to get the GM right and you got to get the head coach right. Once you get those two right, you get the quarterback, and then you're in business for some sustained success here in Miami. But John Harbaugh, I think that is a guy who you absolutely should target. And it would be awesome to see him in Miami. Ultimately, I think he does land the job with the New York Giants, but I think Stephen Ross has to be aggressive here. But let's talk about the other news. All right. The news that is more so in our control, and that is selecting a GM. So the Miami Dolphins have been very, taking this approach seriously, which they should, because we've seen what Chris Greer has done over the years. It has been disastrous, and something's got to change. Stephen Ross right away hired Troy Aikman to be a consultant. I thought that was a brilliant move. A lot of people say, yo, we got Dan Marino in the building. Like, what's up with this? Listen, for me, I think the more, the better. It shows me that Stephen Ross is trying to get the right guy. You got a guy in Troy Aikman who has plenty of different communications and relationships throughout the league. That's only going to help. All right. He can put you in the door with a couple people that he already knows, some successful people, get the word out there and kind of hit the ground running from there. I absolutely think having Troy Aikman is valuable to having this GM search because it starts there. If the Dolphins are able to hire a GM that is capable of literally drafting good players and putting together a nice roster for the head coach to be successful, that is what it's going to take. GM is a very important spot. And if the Dolphins can somehow get this right, I really think it can finally lead to better things ahead. But they got to get it right. So having more people with professional insight, with some communications like Troy Aikman, I think it's only going to help. Now, the Dolphins right now are looking at 7 different candidates right now as we speak, adding just recently the assistant general manager for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that is a guy who, I mean, I'm not sure too much about him. I wouldn't lean his way, but I like the other names that were mentioned as candidates before. They read to you as Tariq Ahmad, the San Francisco 49ers vice president of player personnel. I think that could be a good hire. RJ Gillen, San Francisco 49ers assistant general manager. We've seen the 49ers and what they have been able to do, right? Obviously not hitting home, winning the Super Bowl ultimately, but that's a team who honestly has gotten to the playoffs, has had success in the playoffs, and has been in the conversation year after year as a contender. That's something that the Dolphins, we haven't even won a playoff game. All right, here's another name that obviously, rings a bell to me that I absolutely would love, and that's Alec Halaby. That's the Philadelphia Eagles assistant general manager. We've seen the rosters that the Eagles have been able to put out recently, right? This is a team who's won the Super Bowl. This is the team who's been aggressive in the trade market. This is a team that's been aggressive in free agency, and they also landing on some really talented draft picks. Talk about Jalen Carter and talk about just consistently getting guys and trying to compete. He is obviously the right-hand man, so he has learned a lot from the general manager in Philadelphia. I think that would be a good hire. We got John McKay, who's the Los Angeles Rams assistant general manager. That's another GM right there who honestly has had the Rams going all in after getting a Matthew Stafford, ultimately winning a championship. And look at them now. They are still here and still relevant. That was not just a 1 year, 2 year run there. That's sustained success, and that's something that we need. Then you got John Eric Sullivan, who's the Green Bay Packer vice president of personnel. Obviously, the Packers are another team that is a young team and has honestly, how many times have we talked about the Packers being able to develop players in their system? He has a nice track record. And then you got Josh Williams, who's the San Francisco 49ers director of scouting and football operations. So the Dolphins do have a lot of candidates. I think they have a lot of worthy candidates. It'll be interesting to see which way they go. But I really like this list. And it's an important list because, guys, if the Miami Dolphins are going to be the team that you and I and everyone out here wants them to be, it starts with the general manager. Having the GM put this team in position to have the head coach kind of just lead the way after that, it's a big step. But ultimately, man, what I think happens with the head coach scenario and what happens with Mike McDaniel, I think it falls on this decision. So I think Dolphin fans should be paying attention to this decision more than any decision. I think the Dolphins are going all in to make sure that they get the right GM cut out for the job to have sustained success here in Miami. And then that GM ultimately is going to be the deciding factor on whether he wants to keep Mike McDaniel here, whether he wants to move forward, whether he wants to move forward with Tua, and all of the other decisions. I think Dolphin fans, we're at a scenario where we need to just take a step back, see how it shakes out with the GM, and then give the GM 3 to 5 years to kind of show us the direction that he's going to build. I think the Dolphins are going to get it right. I really like the candidates. I like the consultant and Troy Aikman getting, different opinions out there for Stephen Ross. Stephen Ross wants to get this right, guys. He has shown you guys through doing so many different things, even tampering and all this stuff. He is desperate to win just one time at least, just like us Dolphin fans. He's going to try everything he can. I think at this point, what do we have to lose? We've dealt with so much pain. Let's just hire the right GM first, pump the brakes on everything else. Everything else will fall into play. As for the quarterback situation and the draft, listen, first of all, I like a couple things I saw from Quinn Ewers to end the season. But ultimately, as I said, 3 games is not enough. I want to see Quinn Ewers get an opportunity to compete for the starting job next season. I want him to ultimately take the starting job. And I want to see what he has throughout an entire season so I can really get an evaluation on if he's the next guy moving forward. And if he's not the guy, then you move forward with taking a quarterback, because the quarterback class next season, not this upcoming draft, you got a handful of quarterbacks that can be potential good fits and starter caliber quarterbacks. There's only 2 good guys coming out of this draft. I'm not putting my eggs in that. There's no point, which is why ultimately, if Mike McDaniel ends up being the head coach, he's going to lose games and we're going to get a higher pick the following year. Guys, it's going to be a process, all right? That's what you guys have to understand. This is going to be a process, but I think it's time to embrace the process. Let the stuff shake out the way it's going to shake out. Give the GM time, trust the GM, trust the process, trust the draft picks, and things are eventually going to get right. I truly believe so. And I think everyone needs to hop on board with that. So guess what? We're probably not going to get our starting quarterback right now. We're probably not going to get the head coaching job. But right now, I think the Dolphin fans have to really focus in on this GM. Get this GM right and give him a chance. I think the Dolphins are going to, be in position once they select the right guy. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Keep it locked into my channel. Subscribe if you haven't below. Go Dolphins. Listen, hang in there. Trust the process. What do we have to lose? We've been through the worst already. I'm just saying.